Channel 7, the only local channel covering all of the CNMI.
Hope you had a nice weekend. You're just in time for KMCV News.
Here's a peek at what's in store. A lawmaker has discovered what he feels are illegal hiring practices at the Rota Mayor's office.
And taxi cab drivers are moving towards a confrontation with three big retailers in Garapan and San Roque because of their free bus shuttle services.
And we shuttle you into an event where hundreds turned out to gamble and raise funds for charity. The Rotary Club held its Las Vegas night.
You can bet you'll be seeing all of these reports next on KMCV News. Good evening and welcome to another week of news here at KMCV. I'm Glenn Wakai.
And I'm Nanette Miranda. Thanks for joining us this evening. We'll have weather and sports in just a few minutes. But first, let's take a look at our top story. The hiring and payroll practices on Rota are raising some eyebrows here on Saipan. Records at the Finance Department indicate that a number of government employees there were hired far below the salary that the position was budgeted for. A community worker, for instance, was authorized to receive a salary of $24,000, but he is actually being paid $10,000. A higher level community worker is slated to receive $31,000, while he too is only receiving $10,000. A special assistant for legal affairs is allocated for $34,000. While he is actually receiving $26,000. In budget terms, this is called padding, a common practice, but not in great amounts as the records show. Congressman Pete Regis says padding is not also appropriate during these times of deficit, especially with the 1993 CNMI budget still unaccounted for.
We are experiencing financial distress, and that's actually stretching the situation, but everybody needs to exercise financial constraint.
The big discrepancy between the budgeted amount and the actual dollars seemed to reflect the recent amendments the Senate made to the budget during the last session. They fought to keep the definition of a full-time employee to mean more than one employee for one authorized position. Since the Rota Mayor's office was hiring at much lower salaries, the extra amount is enough to accommodate another person. Congressman Pete Regis says the holdup of the budget is due to the Senate's insistence to hire more than one person for one job.
Pass the budget. All along, we could have passed the budget, but the entire budget is being held to make what we found to be illegal, to make it legal.
Regis also says there are irregularities in the number of summer interns hired in 1992. The budget allowed $25,000 to that program. The records indicate that the Rota Mayor's office spent over $98,000. The members of the Rota leadership were off island and could not be reached for comment.
A good percentage of the CNMI budget is represented by revenues generated by tourism. Right now, it's peak season for travel. Those involved in the tourism industry are cashing in, except for one group. A battle is brewing between taxi drivers and three establishments that offer free shuttle service. The registers may be ringing at Saipan's various malls, but the meters are idle in many taxi cabs. Those that transport people for a living say they're being hurt by free shuttle service offered by duty-free shoppers and Hakubotan and $3 rides on La Fiesta Shopping Plaza's buses. Saipan Municipal Council member Pete Nakatsukasa says shopping outlets should stick to retailing.
The taxi driver have been very much concerned because their livelihood have been deprived because of this free transportation shuttle.
Nakatsukasa says Japanese tour packages don't allow for much local business involvement, so every opportunity is critical. However, the driver of this La Fiesta bus says tourists don't want to pay the $34 taxi fare from COP to San Roque.
If you didn't have the free shuttle, do you think these people would go to La Fiesta?
I don't think so.
Taxi driver Gina Regis says that's just not true.
If the La Fiesta comes late, they take taxi. That's not a reason for that. They can use taxi, but the La Fiesta bus always comes here like every 30 minutes. So we can't get customers to La Fiesta.
What Regis finds more disturbing is that the shuttles are being used as a transit service between hotels. For example, instead of tourists going from Coral Ocean to La Fiesta, they're getting off at the Diamond or Hyatt hotels. La Fiesta General Manager Yoichi Nizeki says the mall contracts out the shuttle service and it's not company policy to drop people off along the route. He says the buses bring about 400 customers per day, customers which otherwise would not land up in San Roque.
My friend was here since 4:30 this morning. He only get $10, and it's 12:30 already. And some of their friends not even 1 penny, but they're still hanging around on this canopy because they are hoping that whatever the leftover of the 3 bus that just passed can, by mercy of God, can go to their car.
Nakatsu Kasa has written to the president of the Saipan Chamber of Commerce for assistance.
That I think my last resort is perhaps to write to Mr. Roy Morioka, which I have all the confidence that Mr. Morioka would look over this and see what he can do to help this. No,
there are ways that the shopping center and the service provider can get together and come up with a solution that both can, benefit, if you will, to their individual need.
Morioka says small businesses represent about 80% of the private sector workforce. That includes taxi drivers and shop owners.
The attraction for smaller businesses to occupy complexes such as the La Fiesta Shopping Plaza are motivated by the landlord bringing customers into the plaza itself. So, like I said, there's market dynamics that need to be addressed. And
Morioka says the Saipan Chamber of Commerce will address the taxi drivers' concerns at its next meeting.
A vacation for a Japanese family has turned into tragedy. 4-year-old Keizuki Matsui drowned in the Daiichi Hotel pool on Friday. Police say he and his mother were headed to that area around 10:30 a.m. 10 minutes later, the child disappeared. Shortly thereafter, the parents heard someone had drowned in the pool. When they arrived at the scene, they saw someone applying CPR to their son. The boy was rushed to the hospital, but doctors were unable to revive him. Matsui was pronounced dead shortly before noon.
Coming up next, former radio personality Cody Young is back in jail, this time for alleged credit card misuse.
And an alleged ice supplier to a local drug ring denies her involvement in the scheme. The open government bill may be ready to make its way back from a House committee by tomorrow's session. Congressman Pete Regis says the committee report on the bill can be ready to be presented to the rest of the members if he can review it on time by tomorrow's session at 10. The proposal has been in the works for the past 2 years, and it has been through several public hearings. Last week's attempts to have an open budget conference perhaps lends itself to the idea that all government meetings should be open to public scrutiny. Representative Pete Regis says this kind of law is desperately needed.
Well, it opens up the meeting to the public, make it accessible for the press to be in any, whether or not it's controversial, meetings or not.
What are we talking about? The legislative level, executive level, all levels?
All levels, including boards and commission.
Again, that session is scheduled for 10 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Something else the government could soon be opening are its purse strings. Those who have been working for the government for a long time could be in for a very pleasant surprise. There's a bill making its way through the legislature which would provide a 30% bonus for employees with 20 years of service. The CNMI's retirement program is already considered to be one of the best in the nation. Soon, the best may get even better. Representative Jess Moffness wants to entice people into retirement with a one-time bonus.
It will definitely impact the Commonwealth government at the initial stage. But, the following year, the government will save money.
There are currently over 300 people eligible to take advantage of the 30% bonus. The retirement fund estimates if they all opted out, it would cost the government about $5 million. There are 2 classes of government employees. Class 2 includes those hired before May of 1989. Class 1 are those hired after that date. Presently, the government contribution is 23% of payroll for Class 2 and 9% for Class 1. Thus, if more Class 2 employees can be released, in the long run, government costs would be reduced. The intent of Mopness's bill is to streamline government operations and make more people available for private sector employment.
Only those essential positions will be filled. So you will reduce the workforce in the government.
Those who retire after 20 years of service receive a 58% pension. Retirees with 35 years of experience get 85% of their salary. Because of that difference, Retirement Fund Administrator Thomas Aldon doubts if there will be many takers to the bonus plan.
It is really to entice the employees to take advantage of this so that they can, retire and go and work for the private sector. And that way we will reduce the influx of non-resident workers, 1. 2, we will reduce the outflow of cash from the CNMI.
Aldon would like to see the early retirement bonus paid by the government and not by the fund.
In court news today, a woman accused of perjury and deceptive business practices is moving to have her case dismissed. Betty Sarkis was to stand trial today, but because of this new motion, that trial has been postponed. Sarkis's attorney, Tony Atelig, will be presenting the dismissal motion to a judge on Wednesday. If the dismissal is granted, the trial continues on December 20th. Sarkis allegedly made false or misleading written statements to the CNMI government for the purpose of obtaining an offshore banking license. She has pleaded not guilty to those charges. And the last 3 defendants arrested in the recent prostitution raids have entered a plea of not guilty as well. They are charged with either prostitution or promoting prostitution. Police had been investigating a number of nightclubs during the past few weeks in its first effort to enforce the 6-month-old anti-prostitution law. It all culminated the night of August 12th when 15 people were arrested on separate raids throughout the island. All 15 have been released to a third-party custodian. Most of them are due back in court on September 20th.
An alleged ICE supplier to a local drug ring denies her involvement in the scheme. Zenia Guevara pleaded not guilty today to 3 counts: conspiracy, possession, and delivery of a controlled substance. She was implicated by 2 other suspects testifying against her and 5 other members of the group. Guevara is currently under house arrest in Capitol Hill, caring for her 1-year-old child. Guevara's husband, Felino, is also facing the same charges. The woman is due back in court on September 27th for a status conference.
Former radio personality Cody Young is back in jail. He was arrested early Saturday morning on charges not related to his current check forgery case involving 2 stolen drafts from the Bank of Guam. Rather, he is facing theft and forgery charges related to the misuse of someone else's credit card. Assistant Attorney General Charles Rothbard says Young used the credit card to rent a car on 2 separate occasions. Both times he abandoned the vehicles. He pleaded not guilty this afternoon to his recent arrest. Meanwhile, he continues to be held on $750,000 cash bail, plus another $50,000 from this first case.
You can bet things were really rolling at the Diamond Hotel this past weekend. The Saipan Rotary Club held its quarterly Las Vegas night. About 400 participants played cards and threw dice all night. By the end of the evening, the event raised over $8,000 for scholarships and community organizations. Rotary President Mike Sablan says Saturday's Vegas night brought in 20% more than the one they had last time. It's the organization's biggest source of revenues. Sablan attributes the event's success to the many volunteers and businesses that came together. Now we roll on into sports. Willie, what's your favorite gambling game?
Blackjack. It's easy to count up to 21.
Yeah, I'm not that great at addition either.
Well, a newcomer wins the title of the World Series of Golf. And in football, players are looking lean and mean. In volleyball action, second place V6 challenged the undefeated Lost Boys to end the regular season of the Saipan Amateur Volleyball Association. Friday's games ended the regular season for Sava. The match was between the undefeated Lost Boys against second place V6. The first match was pretty even up with a lot of side outs. Lost Boys showed why they were undefeated by winning the first set 15-8. The second set belonged to V6. With kills by Peter Camacho and placement shots by Barcinas, V6 tromped on Lost Boys 15-4 in the second set. In the final set, Lost Boys and V6 were constantly exchanging serves with the lead changing hands. The determination to beat the undefeated was in the minds of V6 as they beat Lost Boys for the match 15-8.
Tonight's game was pretty intense because
we're playing against the undefeated team, and that is the Lost Boys. And we tried our best to defeat them by playing a strong defense as well as offense.
Risa Sakai made her last performance her best in the final leg of the International Tennis Federation South Pacific Junior Circuit. Held in American Samoa, the South Pacific Junior Championship is the only tournament in the circuit which counts towards a junior world ranking. With a barrage of lethal ground strokes, Sakai, at 14 years old, the youngest player on the tour, may have earned herself a berth among the world's junior tennis elite with a quarterfinal finish in this year's climactic event. Her 6-1, 6-1 thrashing of Nancy Tonga of Tonga avenged a disappointing loss to the same young Tonga in the previous week. At the completion of the competition, Yun was named the NMI's team's most valuable player in recognition of his 8 match victories and upset of number 5 seed in the Tonga leg of the tournament. And in other local sports, our Little Leaguers will be returning this Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. They return with a 1-2 record in the most prestigious tournament in the Little League competition. That ends the Miller Sports page. Don't go away. Vicky will be back with the weather report.
Good evening. There has been no trace of any disaster activity in our vicinity, although there is one cyclonic circulation located northwest of Guam and a convergent wind flow just southeast of Guam and Saipan, and that will bring in more rain showers within the next few days. Taking a look now at the forecast for this evening, we're having mostly cloudy skies with widely scattered light to moderate showers, winds usually 5 to 15 miles per hour, gusting up to 20 near showers, and the low temperature in the mid 70s. Our seas tonight will be slight to moderate 2 to 4 feet, surf conditions 3 to 5 feet on northwestern clockwise through eastern exposures and 2 to 4 feet elsewhere. A high of 2.3 feet is due up at 7:39 this evening, and expect a low of 1 foot in just an hour and a half after midnight. Our second set of tide will take place at 6:39 early Tuesday morning with a high of 2.2 feet, and the tide will drop to a low of -1/10 of a foot at 1:22 tomorrow afternoon. The sun will set at 6:34 and sunrise tomorrow morning will be at 5:48. And for tomorrow's forecast, expect mostly cloudy skies with widely scattered light to moderate showers. Winds will be blowing in from the east direction, gusting up to 25 miles per hour, and the high temperature in the upper 80s. And that's all for our weather report.
On behalf of the entire news crew, thanks for joining us this evening. Have a good night and a great tomorrow.
Good night.